What you're about to see was never meant to be seen by anyone at any time, and it changed everything forever. What happens when a Hollywood icon walks onto The View expecting promotion and instead steps into a pressure cooker of unfiltered opinions, simmering tension, and questions that refuse to stay polite? Before you settle in, subscribe. Hit like and tell us in the comments. Do you think celebrities owe the public complete transparency, or is there a line that should never be crossed? The applause swells as Dwayne Johnson takes his seat at the curved table, the familiar theme music fading under the cheers. He flashes the smile everyone knows, the one built from premieres, stadiums, red carpets, but it doesn't quite reach his eyes. Not yet. He nods to the audience, exchanges greetings with the hosts, shakes hands. Whoopi Goldberg sits centered, calm, and watchful. Joy Behar leans back with a half-smile that suggests she's already lining up her angle. Sunny Hostin flips a card between her fingers, focused. Sia Haynes beams, warm but alert. Alyssa Farah Griffin adjusts in her chair, ready to jump in. The opening minutes glide by. Clips roll. Laughter lands. Sia praises his work ethic, calling him the definition of hustle. Dwayne thanks her, talking about discipline, family, gratitude. Alyssa chimes in about leadership and reinvention, framing his career as a masterclass in control. He nods, appreciative, measured. Then Joy leans forward, eyes sharp. "You're everywhere," she says, voice light but pointed. "Movies, business, social media. Sometimes it feels like The Rock is less a person and more a brand. Do you ever get tired of managing that?" A ripple of laughter follows, but it's edged with curiosity. Dwayne chuckles, buys time. "I think of it as responsibility," he says. "People invest in you. You show up." Sunny doesn't wait long. "Responsibility cuts both ways," she adds. "When criticism comes about projects, about public statements, it often feels like it gets brushed aside." "Is that intentional?" The smile tightens. Dwayne straightens. "I listen," he says carefully, "but I don't let noise drown out purpose." Whoopi finally speaks, her voice low and steady. "Purpose is good," she says. "But when you're this influential, the noise is often people asking to be heard." The audience murmurs. Cameras catch the shift, the air thickening, the tempo changing. Sarah tries to soften it, laughing lightly. "I think what Whoopi is saying is, you've become a mirror. People project a lot onto you." Dwayne nods at Sarah, grateful for the bridge, but Joy crosses it first. "Mirrors crack," she says, "especially when they pretend they don't." A few gasps, a smatter of applause. Dwayne's eyes flick to Joy, then back to Whoopi. "I've never pretended," he says. "I just refuse to live my life in reaction mode." Sunny raises her chin. "But reaction mode is sometimes accountability," she counters. "When fans feel unheard, silence can feel like dismissal." There it is, the word hanging between them. Accountability. Dwayne exhales, slow and controlled. "Accountability doesn't mean public self-flagellation," he says. "It means learning, adjusting, and moving forward." Alyssa leans in, measured. "Do you think the public gets to decide what that looks like?" He turns to her, respectful but firm. "I think the public gets a voice," he replies. "I don't think they get the steering wheel." The audience reacts audibly now, claps colliding with an easy silence. Hoopsie's gaze never leaves him. "Power changes the rules," she says. "You don't get to opt out of that." Dwayne leans forward, forearms on his knees, voice dropping. "I didn't opt out," he says. "I stepped up. But I won't apologize for success or for protecting my family and my people." Joy tilts her head. "No one asked you to apologize for success," she says. "We're asking if success has made you harder to reach." That lands harder than anything before it. For a moment, Dwayne doesn't speak. The quiet stretches, elastic and uncomfortable. Sarah glances between them. Sunny watches closely. Alyssa presses her lips together. "I'm right here," Dwayne finally says. "Live, talking, listening." Whoopi nods once. "Then hear this," she replies. "When the image gets too polished, people start looking for cracks. Not because they hate you, but because they want something real." The audience erupts. Applause, whistles, Scattered cheers. Dwayne sits back, absorbing it. His jaw sets, not angry, but resolved. Real isn't always loud, he says. Sometimes it's consistent. Joy scoffs lightly. Consistency can look like avoidance. And just like that, the temperature spikes again. A producer's voice faintly cues a transition, but no one moves. The moment has momentum now, pulling everyone with it. The coho exchange looks. This isn't scripted and it isn't slowing down. Dwayne looks across the table, meeting each host's eyes in turn. I respect this panel, he says. But I won't accept the idea that I owe access to every part of my life to prove sincerity. Whoopi folds her hands, and we won't pretend influence doesn't come with uncomfortable questions. The audience roars, split, energized, fully locked in. The segment clock keeps ticking, but the conversation has escaped it. What was meant to be a friendly stop on a press tour has become something else entirely. A live reckoning between image and expectation, control and vulnerability. And the truth, this tension is just warming up. The applause fades unevenly like a wave that can't quite decide where to land. The audience settles back into their seats, but the tension doesn't leave with the sound. It hangs there, stretched thin between the table and the lights, between expectation and defiance. Whoopi breaks the silence first, not with confrontation, but with calm. Let's slow this down, she says, palms open on the table. Because nobody's saying you owe strangers your soul. What we're talking about is perception. Dwayne nods, but his posture stays firm. Perception isn't always truth, he replies. And I've learned the hard way that chasing every version of myself people invent is a losing game. Sonny leans in, voice sharper now that the door is open. But when you benefit from that perception, when it builds trust, loyalty, money, doesn't that change the equation? A few people in the audience clap instinctively. Others shift, unsure. Dwayne turns towards Sonny, measured, respectful, but clearly unmoved. I've never denied benefiting from my career, he says. What I'm pushing back on is the idea that benefit equals obligation to constant explanation. Joy lets out a short laugh. You're very good at explaining right now, she says. That's not the issue. The issue is that this explanation only seems to happen when you're challenged directly. That one hits closer. The camera catches Dwayne's eyes narrow slightly, not in anger, but in focus. You think I avoid challenges? He asks. I think you control them. Joy answers without missing a beat. The audience gasps louder this time. Someone in the back lets out an audible hoof. Sauer raises her hand slightly, trying to soften the moment. Okay, but control isn't automatically bad, she says. Especially for someone who's been scrutinized their whole life. Alyssa nods along. Public scrutiny can be brutal, she adds. Setting boundaries can be survival. Whoopi listens to all of it, then turns back to Dwayne. Boundaries are healthy, she says, but walls can look like silence, and silence gets filled with assumptions. Dwayne leans back, crossing his arms, not defensively, but protectively. I don't live online, he says. I live with my kids, my team, my work. If that reads as distance, that's a trade-off I accept. Sonny tilts her head, but your brand lives online, she says. Your words move markets. Your posts inspire millions. You can't separate the man from the megaphone. That's when the temperature changes. Dwayne uncrosses his arms and leans forward again, slower this time, deliberate. I don't confuse influence with ownership, he says. No matter how loud the megaphone is. The audience erupts, this time more divided than ever. Applause collides with murmurs. The co-hosts exchange glances. This is no longer about one question. It's about power. Joy shakes her head. That sounds nice, she says. But influence without responsibility is just branding. Dwayne looks directly at her. Responsibility is lived, he replies. Not performed. Whoopi's voice cuts in, calm but firm. Then let me ask you this, she says. Have you ever regretted not saying more when people expected it from you? A pause. A real one, not the polished kind. For the first time, Dwayne hesitates. His eyes drop briefly to the floor. The audience leans in collectively, sensing something different. Yes, he says quietly. I have the room stills. But regret doesn't mean I was wrong, he continues. It means the moment was complicated, and complicated moments don't fit into captions. Sarah exhales audibly, almost relieved. That makes sense, she says softly. Sunny nods, but doesn't fully concede. It does, she says. But when people feel hurt, silence can feel like erasure. Dwayne meets her gaze. And when someone demands access, he replies, it can feel like erasure, too, of boundaries of humanity. Another wave of reaction sweeps the audience. This time, it's heavier, less performative, more personal. Joy folds her arms. You're asking for understanding, she says while offering very little vulnerability. Dwayne doesn't flinch. I'm offering honesty, he says. Vulnerability isn't a requirement for respect. Whoopi nods slowly, absorbing that. But it can build bridges, she says. Or burn them, Dwayne responds, depending on who's holding the match. The crowd reacts sharply. Some cheers, some groans. A producer's voice again tries to nudge the segment forward, but no one acknowledges it. Alyssa finally speaks again carefully. Do you think this conversation would even be happening, she asks, if you weren't seen as untouchable? Dwayne considers her words. Probably not, he admits. And maybe that's the real issue. That answer lands unexpectedly. Even Joy looks momentarily caught off guard. The idea that people think you're untouchable, Sarah asks. The idea that people forget I'm human, Dwayne says. Because it's easier to debate a symbol than a person. The audience quiets, not silent, but thoughtful. The clash has shifted from confrontation to exposure, whether anyone intended it or not. Whoopi straightens, sensing the pivot. Then let's be clear, she says. No one here is trying to tear you down. We're asking what happens when the symbol gets too big for the human inside it. Dwayne nods once. Then the human has to speak, he says. But on his own terms. Joy exhales, shaking her head slightly. That's where we disagree, she says. Because when you're this big, your terms affect everyone else. The audience reacts again. Strong, divided, alive. Dwayne looks out at the crowd now, not the hosts. I hear you, he says. But hearing doesn't mean surrendering. The cameras pull back just a little, capturing the entire table. 5 hosts, 1 guest. All of them locked in a moment that has moved far beyond a talk show segment. And it's clear now this conversation isn't cooling down. It's crystallizing. The studio feels smaller now, like the walls have edged closer while no one was looking. Even the lights seem harsher, less forgiving. The audience sits forward in their seats, no longer passive observers, but witnesses to something unfolding in real time. Whoopi exhales slowly, then lets her voice drop. You keep saying my terms, she says. But daytime television isn't your gym, Dwayne. You don't control the weight once it's on the bar. A nervous laugh ripples through the crowd. Dwayne smiles faintly at the metaphor, but it doesn't soften his eyes. True, he replies. But I control whether I lift it or let it crush me. Joy jumps in before the moment can settle. That's a luxury most people don't have, she says. You walk away. Regular folks live with consequences they didn't choose. The words land heavier than anything before. The audience reacts immediately. Applause sharp and loud. Dwayne's shoulders square, not defensively, but with resolve. I grew up watching my parents struggle, he says. Eviction notices. Empty fridges. That doesn't disappear because I'm successful now. Sunny nods, but presses anyway. Then you know exactly why people look to you, she says. Why? Silence hurts. You represent possibility. Dwayne turns to her, voice steady but edged. And possibility doesn't mean perfection. Sarah leans in earnest. No one's asking for perfection. She says they are asking for presence. The word hangs in the air. Presence. Dwayne takes a breath deeper this time. Presence looks different for different people. He says for me it's showing up every day working, providing, protecting. Joy shakes her head. That's not presence to someone who feels ignored. She replies. That's distance with good intentions. The audience murmurs, divided but engaged. Whoopi watches Dwayne closely now as if weighing something unspoken. Let me ask you something straight, she says. Do you think people project onto you because you let them? A pause. Dwayne's jaw tightens. I think they project because they need something to believe in, he says. And belief can turn into entitlement real fast. A few gasps ripple through the crowd. Sunny raises her eyebrows. Entitlement? Yes, Dwayne says, the belief that access equals validation. Joy leans forward. Or the belief that silence equals indifference. Dwayne meets her gaze. Or the belief that fame cancels humanity. Applause bursts out, loud, sustained. A few audience members stand before quickly sitting back down, unsure if they should. Alyssa steps in, voice calm, deliberate. It feels like we're circling the same point, she says. You want autonomy. The public wants acknowledgement. Exactly, Dwayne says. And those two things don't have to be enemies. Unless, Sunny adds, one side refuses to bend. Dwayne smiles thinly or refuses to break. The tension spikes again, sharper now. This isn't theoretical anymore. It's personal philosophy colliding in public space. Whoopi folds her hands. You're a leader whether you want to be or not, she says. Leaders don't just inspire. They explain. Dwayne's voice lowers. Leaders also protect their people from noise, he says. From chaos disguised as concern. The audience reacts strongly. Some cheers, some groans. The division is visible now, audible. Joy throws up her hands slightly. There it is, she says. That's the problem. You keep deciding what's noise. Dwayne turns fully toward her because not every voice is owed the same weight, he says. The studio freezes. Even Whoopi blinks at that. Sunny speaks carefully. That's a dangerous line, she says. Who decides whose pain matters? Dwayne doesn't hesitate. Everyone decides their own, he says. But no one gets to assign me guilt on demand. A hush falls over the room. This is the sharpest edge yet. Sauer looks genuinely concerned now. Dwayne, she says softly, do you hear how that sounds? He nods. I do, he says. And I stand by it. The audience erupts, this time louder than ever. Applause crashes into boos. The energy is volatile, electric. Whoopi finally raises her hand, commanding silence without effort. The room obeys. This is where it gets real, she says. Because when someone with your reach says not every voice matters equally, people hear dismissal, even if that's not what you mean. Dwayne's expression hardens. I'm not dismissing pain, he says. I'm rejecting performance. Joy scoffs. Pain isn't a performance. Neither is privacy. Dwayne fires back. The exchange crackles. The hosts talk over one another for a moment. Sunny trying to interject. Sarah attempting to de-escalate. Alyssa urging balance. The producer's voice is louder now, clearly nervous. Whoopi leans forward again, voice cutting through the noise. Enough, she says. Listen to each other. The room quiets. She turns to Dwayne. You've built a career on connection, she says. If people feel shut out, that connection weakens. Then she turns to the panel. And if we demand access as proof of morality, she adds, we risk turning empathy into control. The audience responds, thoughtful applause, slower, more unified. Dwayne nods once, appreciating the fairness. That's all I'm saying, he says. Joy exhales, rubbing her temple. And all I'm saying, she replies, is that power talks even when it stays quiet. They lock eyes, neither backing down, neither escalating further. A stalemate. The cameras zoom out again, capturing the full panel, the restless audience, the ticking clock now dangerously low. Whatever resolution people expected isn't coming neatly. Because this clash isn't about winning. It's about who gets to define the rules when the whole world is watching. And the breaking point is closer than anyone wants to admit. The clock above the camera blinks red, a silent warning no one acknowledges. The show is supposed to move on, but no one at the table looks ready to let go. The audience can feel it. That rare moment when television slips its leash. Whoopi leans back slightly, studying Dwayne with a look that isn't hostile, but isn't gentle either. You know, she says, I've been doing this a long time. I've watched people come in here armored, smiling, prepared. And I've watched those same people crack when they realize the questions don't care about the armor. Dwayne nods slowly. I respect that, he says. But armor doesn't always mean hiding. Sometimes it means surviving. Sunny jumps in, voice firm. Surviving from what? She asks. Criticism or accountability? A murmur spreads through the audience. Dwayne turns toward her. From being reduced, he says, to headlines to moments stripped of context. Joy lets out a sharp breath. Welcome to public life, she says. The rest of us don't get press teams to clean it up. That stings. The audience reacts instantly. Louder this time, more charged. Dwayne's jaw flexes. I didn't buy my way out of struggle, he says. I earned my way through it. Alyssa leans forward, careful but probing. No one's denying that, she says. But success changes the impact of your choices. That's just reality. Sarah nods. It does, she agrees. And people notice when someone at the top goes quiet. Dwayne looks at Sarah, his voice softening just a notch. And people don't notice the quiet work, he replies. The conversations that aren't public, the help that doesn't get posted. Whoopi watches him closely. Then why not say that? She asks. Why wait until you're cornered? That question lands differently. Not sharp, honest. Dwayne pauses. Really pauses. The audience quiets, sensing something shifting again. Because I don't want compassion to become currency, he says finally. I don't want to teach people that doing good only counts if it's visible. A beat. Joy opens her mouth, then closes it. Sunny looks down at her notes, then back up. Even the audience seems unsure how to react. That's fair, Sarah says cautiously. But Sunny adds, intent doesn't erase impact. Dwayne nods. I know the admission is small, but it's real. The audience responds with a softer kind of applause, less explosive, more thoughtful. Whoopi leans in. Then here's the crossroads, she says. You want privacy. The public wants reassurance. Those two things don't naturally coexist. So, what's the solution? Dwayne asks. Joy answers immediately. Transparency. Alyssa counters just as fast. Boundaries. Sunny says, dialogue. Sarah adds, trust. They all talk at once for a moment, overlapping voices, competing truths. The producer's voice cuts in again, louder now, urging a wrap. Whoopi raises her hand, and the room settles. This is why these conversations matter, she says. Because nobody's fully wrong. But nobody's fully right either. She turns back to Dwayne. You're not just reacting to criticism, she says. You're reacting to what it represents, a loss of control. The audience murmurs. Dwayne doesn't deny it. Control keeps my family safe, he says. It keeps my work focused. I've seen what happens when chaos takes over. Joy softens slightly. And we've seen what happens when power goes unchecked, she replies. Their eyes meet again. Not adversaries now, but equals standing on opposite edges of the same argument. Sunny leans forward. Do you ever worry? She asks quietly. That protecting yourself too much distances you from the people who believed in you first. The question lands hard, harder than the sharpest jab. Dwayne's throat tightens. He swallows. The room holds its breath. Yes, he says. I do. The admission sends a visible ripple through the audience. Even Joy looks momentarily taken aback. But I worry more, he continues, about losing myself trying to be everything to everyone. Sour nods, visibly moved. That's something a lot of people feel, she says. They just don't have a spotlight when they say it. Alyssa adds, and maybe that's where empathy should live on both sides. Whoopi watches Dwayne for a long moment, then speaks with quiet authority. Empathy isn't surrender, she says. And accountability isn't punishment. They are conversations, messy ones. Dwayne lets out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Then let this be one, he says. The audience applauds, longer now, steadier. Not everyone agrees, but everyone feels the weight of what just happened. Joy shakes her head slowly, a small smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. You know, she says, for a guy who says he doesn't like explaining himself, you sure picked one hell of a place to do it. Laughter breaks through the tension for the first time in a while. Dwayne smiles. This time it reaches his eyes. "Maybe I needed to," he says. Whoopi glances toward the camera, aware of the clock now, screaming for attention. "We have to take a break," she says. But this conversation doesn't end when the lights go down. The audience erupts into applause as the camera pulls back. Some are standing, some are shaking their heads, some are already pulling out their phones. Dwayne sits back in his chair, expression unreadable, relieved, exposed, resolute, all at once. Because while the show may be cutting to commercial, the real fallout is just beginning. And what happens next won't unfold on this stage, but everywhere else. The cameras fade to black, but the room doesn't exhale. Not really. The applause lingers in uneven bursts as the audience stands. Some clapping enthusiastically, others slower, thoughtful, conflicted. The hosts adjust their notes, sip water, exchange quick glances that say more than words ever could. Dwayne Johnson remains seated for a moment longer than necessary, staring at the table as if grounding himself before the weight of what just happened fully settles in. When he finally stands, the applause grows louder again. A few audience members call his name. Others remain quiet, arms folded, processing. Dwayne nods respectfully, offering a small wave. Not the stadium kind, not the movie star flourish, just acknowledgement. Backstage, the energy shifts from performative to raw. A producer whispers urgently into a headset. Another host's assistant scrolls through a phone, eyes widening as notifications stack faster than they can be read. Clips are already circulating. Quotes are being pulled. Headlines are being drafted in real time. Whoopi removes her mic and exiles. "That got real," she says quietly, more to herself than anyone else. Joy shakes her head, half amused, half exhausted. You don't poke a mountain and expect silence. Sunny checks her phone again. "It's already trending," she says. People are split right down the middle. Sour looks unsettled, thoughtful. "But they are talking," she says. "Not just yelling, talking." Alyssa nods. "That's Ray." Down the hallway, Dwayne's team closes in around him. Not shielding, but steadying. He listens as one assistant murmurs about social reactions, another about follow-up interviews being requested almost instantly. He raises a hand gently. "Not right now," he says. "Let it breathe." Outside the studio, the world is already on fire. Clips flood social media. Hoopsie's measured stare. Joy's sharp challenges. Sun is pointed questions. Dwayne's quiet but firm refusals to bend. Fans argue in comment sections. Some praise him for protecting boundaries, for refusing to perform vulnerability on demand. Others accuse him of arrogance, of hiding behind polish and power. Opinion pieces begin to appear within hours. Dwayne Johnson finally pushes back. The Rock's untouchable image cracks on live TV. Was Whoopi right? Did TheView go too far? No one agrees, but no one looks away. By evening, Dwayne releases a short statement. No dramatic apology, no long explanation, just a few lines about dialogue, respect, and complexity. Some call it classy, others call it calculated. The debate only intensifies. Whoopi addresses it the next day, calm and unapologetic. "That's what conversations are supposed to do," she says. "Make you uncomfortable enough to think." Joy doubles down on her radio show, insisting power should always be questioned. Sunny speaks about accountability and influence. Sarah talks about empathy. Alyssa talks about balance. Each angle adds fuel, but beneath the noise, something quieter happens, too. Fans share personal stories about feeling unseen, about protecting boundaries, about the cost of being strong all the time. The conversation widens beyond celebrity and talk shows. It becomes about expectation, access, humanity, and somewhere in the middle of it all, Dwayne Johnson goes home. He cooks dinner. He hugs his kids. He sits in silence longer than usual, replaying moments he can't edit, words he chose not to soften. He doesn't regret speaking. But he understands now. Clarity doesn't always bring peace. The next time he steps into the public eye, the smile is still there, the confidence, too. But something has shifted, not cracked, not broken, just exposed. Because that day on The View wasn't about winning an argument. It was about revealing how thin the line is between admiration and demand, between influence and ownership, between a symbol and the human being behind it. And the audience, both in that studio and watching from home, felt it. Now it's your turn. Was Dwayne Johnson right to draw a hard line and protect his boundaries? Or were the hosts right to push harder, demanding accountability from someone with that much influence? Share your thoughts in the comments. We read them all.